Hello and welcome back to Finding Perfect Property, Diary of a Buying Agent. I'm Camilla Dell, your host, and today I'm absolutely delighted to have Jack Ballantine on the show. Jack is the founder of a buying agency in Marbella called Nueva Vida, and I'm delighted to say that Blackbrick and Nueva Vida are now working together, referring clients to one another. Jack, welcome to London, welcome to Blackbrick, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell me more about Nueva Vida. Tell me more about the story. Why Marbella? How did you come up with the name?
Nueva Vida is a family-owned company. Myself and my business partner James are cousins. And Nueva Vida came out of advising a client in London on development opportunities, and then them asking us to sort of come and see their products and see their properties in Spain. And we were sort of just inspired by the level of quality of home out there.
Yeah.
But the real disparity and lack of service on the buying side.
Yeah.
And we sort of saw an opportunity there, sort of step in and offer a really sort of wholesome in-house buying agency service.
Nueva Vida, which means new life. So it's a great name. But before your journey there, you were head of the Asia desk at CBRE for a number of years. So how did that experience help you with being a buying agent and what you do today?
Massively. I was in a really fortunate position where I was able to advise FTSE 100 developers in London, private developers, and really understand buyer profile and really understand what the buyer is looking for, from the design of the home through to the buying experience. I just learned so much, especially about those international buyers. Yeah. And that fabric of what they're looking for and what they need. Yeah. And that's helped us sort of develop our service and sort of hand-holding process. Yeah. You know, someone that has never bought anything in another country before, we were able to really learn that and bring that into Nueva Vida.
What would you say are the key differences? I mean, I think most listeners listening to this podcast will be familiar with the buying process in the UK. What are the main differences between buying in the UK and buying in Spain, in Marbella?
I said the main difference to UK to Marbella and Europe in general actually is the deposit process. So in Spain, if you find a property you like, you have to pay a reservation fee, and that enables the property to be taken off the market and allows the sort of lawyers to meet from both sides, the lawyers to negotiate the purchase contract. And then once that's agreed, you then pay a 10% non-refundable deposit. So I would say that's the biggest difference that we have between here and in Spain. And is
that always adhered to, or is there any funny business gazumping? Does the concept of gazumping happen in Spain?
No. Okay. I think there can sometimes, in that period of time where you pay your reservation fee, if the buyer, it's really important to know exactly what you're buying. Yeah. When you pay that reservation fee, because if there's a grey area between then and when you sign the purchase contract and pay the 10%, the buyer and the seller sometimes, or if there's a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, that can have an impact on that period. And there may be a dispute whether that reservation fee goes back or not. But no, it's very much a case of once it's done, once it's agreed, both the buyer and seller sign a reservation contract. I've never seen anyone gazumped during that period.
And what are the reservation fees typically? I mean, in new builds in central London, the reservation fees often aren't very much money. Are they more meaningful in Spain?
Yeah,
are they bigger amounts?
Normally about 1% of the
Okay.
Yeah, normally about 1% of the value. If it's a lower value property, then it'd be more. Yeah. But if you're buying something at 3 million, you'd expect to pay between 30 and 50,000 euros.
Okay.
Fee,
so it's meaningful. So I can see that. And talk to us about what's happening in your market at the moment. Is it very active? Are prices going up, down? Who's buying?
We're quite lucky. We work across Europe on lots of different things, and the big thing that attracts us to Marbella is the volume of quality product coming to market keeps values at a realistic growth level. So what we don't see is these huge, enormous spikes. You see in other areas of the world where, suddenly you've got a 4 million euro villa that's worth 8 or even more.
Yeah, like Dubai, let's say.
Like Dubai or Portugal, it really does happen. But I think because it's such an established market, we don't see that. We do see growth year on year, but they're always pretty realistic. I think the level of stock that comes to market dictates, if something's overpriced, it tends to stay on the market for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So if it's priced correctly, it goes extremely quickly. And I think Marbella is really going through, it's been sort of really working hard behind the scenes to elevate its profile. And I think it's starting to see the fruits of that. It's very much become an all year round destination. It's changed from being a holiday destination to a place where people live all year round, not just because of the climate. They're drawn to live there because of the great international schools. We've got more and more international flights out of Malaga, so it's becoming even more well connected. So I think Marbella has become a real place to live rather than just a holiday destination.
Yeah. Do you think it's benefiting from what's happening here in the UK with, UK res non-doms potentially leaving? Is it more tax-friendly jurisdiction?
There's tax-friendly opportunities for high net worth and ultra high net worth clients to live there. It's not a lower tax environment, but the Andalusia government in particular are very pro sort of encouraging high net worths to live in Andalusia. So there is favourable buying taxes have never been lower, things like that.
What are the buying taxes?
The stamp duty is 1.2%.
Wow, regardless of the value of what you're buying?
Regardless of the value of what you're buying.
That's very low.
And it's come down from 1.5 to 1.2.
Gosh.
And
you would think that would fuel quite significant price growth.
It's fueled demand.
Yeah.
But I think the volume of stock, the volume of properties coming to market, sort of always stabilises that demand level.
Okay.
I think in brand new developments, the values there have certainly benefited from that. I mean, they've gone through the roof.
Yeah.
They're really high. But the villa market, which we specialise in more of, that's sort of stayed quite stable. And
so once you've paid your stamp duty, are there any other costs, like notary costs or ongoing annual costs that buyers need to think about?
So a property transfer tax of 7%, and then
and the seller pays that?
Yeah. The notary fees and legal fees normally are about 1 to 1.5% in total.
Okay.
Of the value they pay. So the buyer pays that. And it's very involved, which is something I really like about the notary system.
Yeah.
It's worth the money you pay because it's very involved. There's very strict time frames in place. Yeah, so the lawyers on both sides know exactly what they're working to.
Yeah.
So if you've got a completion date, it's very unlikely that it slips.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might slip. You're waiting for something to come back from a town hall or a mortgage to have the paperwork sort of sorted out. But when it does slip, it's unusual. And that time frame's great for buyers because they know exactly what to expect.
Moving on from taxation, who's buying in Marbella at the moment?
Marbella traditionally, and it's still very prevalent now, has about a 25 to 28% UK buyer profile. And then everything around that sort of fluctuates and changes with their own sort of home trends or taxation. So we've gone through a period of real sort of Scandinavian, Nordic demand. Now we're seeing an increase in American demand, which we've not really had before. But areas like Sota Grande have always sort of sat quite well with Americans. So there's now that sort of coming into place. So it changes a lot in terms of where the other demand is coming from.
Yeah.
But it's very much sort of ultra high net worth families sort of really looking for an all year round destination that's easy to live in.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one thing. They're coming from all over the world, but they're all looking for a similar thing. And I think, Marbella has a lot of wellness and a lot of lifestyle benefits that people look for. So you tend to get a lot of like-minded people, which makes it a great community.
People buying there to invest and rent their properties out. Do you see much of that happening in the market?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, absolutely. From people buying apartments through to people buying villas, adding value and renting those out. We're working on several homes at the moment on behalf of private clients that we've acquired. We're renovating, and they will hold those and rent those rather than resell them.
Yeah.
In the past, they would always resell those homes, but now actually, they're seeing such high demand for top-end villa rentals, and the rental rates are so strong that they're actually deciding to hold on to those as an asset. What
would you say that the yields are typically?
So I would say low season yields are around 10 to 12%, The high season are a lot higher.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot higher.
So there's a real there's a real investment case then with those sorts of yields.
Huge, yeah. Not just capital value.
Yeah.
That revenue pays a really good return. And
there's no restrictions in your market in terms of who can buy and who can invest.
Yeah, none whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, there's of course, KYC and all that sort of stuff in place, but there's no restrictions whatsoever.
Yeah. And how do the locals view having so many overseas buyers buying property in Marbella and Sotogrande? How are they viewed by the locals?
Unlike other areas at the moment, very happy to have international investors and international people living there. I think the thing with Marbella and Sotogrande to a degree, but Sotogrande is much more of I would say a holiday destination rather than an all-year-round destination. It's been that way for tens and tens of years. So everything around Marbella is built towards that market. So there isn't really any other sort of major economic pools for people that live in Marbella other than real estate and hospitality.
Yeah.
So everything is built around that.
Yeah.
The hotels have amazing service. If you live in Marbella, you go to the big hotels to go to their restaurants and you feel like a guest. So I just don't see that ever changing.
Yeah.
I actually see it growing even more and more.
Yeah.
There's lots to talk about different brands and really top-end hotel brands coming into the market. So I think the more and more that's happening, the less and less there is a problem of that.
And talk to me a bit about how Nueva Vida can help clients manage homes and investments, because you're not just a buying agent.
No.
Yeah.
I think when we set up Nueva Vida, we realised that the main gaps were in the buyer's experience. So when they arrive, we have a private driver, picks them up from the hotel, picks them up from the airport, and they don't have to worry about a single thing through to actually after they bought it. And a lot of problems I find and we found was that we would buy an asset for someone and then all the services fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
So the gardener, all the really important things. So you then come back to your holiday home and it would look completely different. And we were, from the very beginning, we said, well, we're not going to let that happen. So we set up the management side because we can then protect and look after the client's asset and obviously look after their experience as well. So when they arrive, it will look exactly as they left it. And whether that be just fresh linen on the beds or a fridge full of whatever they want, or the chef, drivers, but also the grounds. So, these villas cost a lot, but they also cost a lot to maintain if you don't maintain them. If you maintain them and you have a weekly gardener coming 2 or 3 times a week and you have everything looked after, then they're very relatively inexpensive to look after. So our management service is really built around that.
Yeah.
It's bespoke to every client. Some clients want more than others, and that's absolutely fine. And others want us to sort of just take care of the lot and don't worry about it at all. But it's very transparent. They get a weekly report. They get weekly pictures. They can see exactly what's needed. Also planning ahead. So if they say, well, we're not coming for a year, could you look at doing this? We're putting a 500 square metre basement into a villa, which starts in September.
Yeah.
They're not going to use it for a year. When they come in a year's time, they'll have an extra 500 square metres of space that they didn't have before, with a spa and gym. So it's really extremes. It's either like just leave it as it is and it's looked after and it looks perfect, or it's full, the full next level renovation.
Fantastic. And what about security in Marbella? Would you say it's a safe place?
I mean, I've always found it to be a really safe place. I think it's like anywhere in the world. It's the best way I describe it is if you are looking for trouble, in London, we're in Mayfair here, if you're looking for it, you'll find it. I think with Marbella, I would say it's like anywhere. You've just got to be conscious of what you're doing. You've got to make sure you've got the right security systems. Most of our homes either have an AI camera-based system or they have someone that's there overnight. Now, I'd really insist on that because that's quite a common thing to have in Europe. And it's just sort of being conscious. But in terms of security levels, police in Spain, in Marbella especially, are very pro making sure that everyone feels comfortable and confident. So it's a friendly place. You arrive, you're well looked after. And so I think there is a conscious effort. But I do think it's important to be wise to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the quality of construction? There's quite a lot of new build in Marbella.
Yeah.
How is the quality compared to, the best developments in London? Would you say it's on par or not?
I think there's some amazing developers. Really, they've really got a good eye. The difference, I'd say, is in comparison to London, to Spain, is I think their choice of materials and their choice of even soft fixtures, light switches, things like that, is more drawn from sort of wider Europe. So I think there's gaps. We quite often will make quite a lot of changes to the client's home that elevates the home to being something they're used to in the UK or Dubai or wherever it is. But I think that's quite development specific. I think that eye for detail and design in Marbella is really strong.
Yeah.
Especially that sort of Andalusian, Scandinavian look. That. I mean, I love that look myself, but they really nailed that.
Yeah.
And the quality of product, tiles, flooring, carpentry, it's really strong now.
Yeah.
It's come on a long way. There's a lot of Dutch influence, so there's a lot of really good engineering done, great architects. I think it's in a great place. It has been for a while as well, I'd say. But anyway, we do a lot of pre-completion checks.
Yeah.
For a reason. Because I think you've just got to, again, make sure it's the right standard, the right specification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack, I want to talk to you a little bit about global warming. Europe's getting hotter. I'm off to Italy next week. I'm already really worried about what the weather's going to be like and whether I'm going to be able to do anything during the day. How do you see that affecting your market over the next few years?
I think Marbella is quite unique. So we've got a mountain called La Concha, and Marbella is surrounded by a mountain range. So the temperature doesn't really exceed 35, 36 in the summer.
Yeah.
And so that's quite an attractive thing. People are attracted to moving down there for that reason.
Yeah.
I think there's a definite conscious decision-making process that people are going through. Not all clients, it's not as important to some as it is to others. But I think, like anything, there's a mass, Spain especially, and I think in Europe in general, there's a huge gap between what the consumer really wants to do in terms of the buyer, from adding solar panels and that sort of thing, to actually being able to, the grid to facilitate that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the problem at the moment.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of things on hold at the moment to do that would be amazing for the environment. It makes it so much sense to do it. But there's no way the grid can handle that, and so there's no benefit to the buyer. So I think it's definitely on people's minds, but I think we're not there yet. I think we're quite far behind getting there yet.
Talk to me about some of the transactions you've been involved with. Obviously, I totally appreciate client confidentiality, so I'm not asking you to break any of that. But if you had to pick, your top acquisition that you've ever done for a client over the last few years, what would it be?
We never talk numbers or clients, but I'd say we
can talk rough numbers, surely.
We were involved in the highest sale in Marbella in the last, a record sale in Marbella. But I think the best sale or sort of acquisition we've done in recent years was for a client friend of mine who had built an amazing business. And I don't think he'd ever really believed he would ever be in a position where he'd be buying a home that he bought. But they're quite this stunning, ultra modern, blended with exposed concrete and self-rusting pillars villa with the most incredible views. And I'm lucky I go to that house a lot, spend time with friends and a client, and it just feels so good to see them enjoying it.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful home in La Quinta. So you're on the golf courses, you're 5 minutes to everything. That's by far the favourite acquisition we've done to date.
Fantastic. If you were buying in Marbella, what would you be buying? If money was no object.
Money was no object?
Yes.
I'd be buying a frontline golf, because I'm completely golf obsessed. Old Andalusian style villa with a traditional tiled roof. And it would be on one floor, huge lateral space, and I would completely gut it and make it, completely open plan, but just retain that sort of Andalusian roofline.
Nice.
Pared back, but I would go the full hog, yeah. With everything, yeah.
I want to talk a bit more about being a buying agent in Marbella. Nueva Vida, unique in the market? Do you have competitors? Are there other buying agents?
No, there are. I mean, there are. What Marbella has, we have there's a listing agent who markets the properties and provides the marketing collateral to lots and lots of agents. But no, there isn't a dedicated buyers only agency. We decided to focus on that because that's where we felt we could add the most value.
Yeah.
And what we didn't want to be is just like everyone else. We don't need to be. We've built a good business, so we can afford to pay that time and attention to our clients' needs.
Yeah.
And that's built us a great place because now, as a result of us being well known for that, is we get access to loads of homes that aren't on the market yet, or if someone isn't thinking of selling but actually it's the right home, we can have a really easy conversation because we're involved.
Yeah.
So I think it gives the buyer a lot more sort of gravitas really within the market. And I think, the Marbella market, everyone sort of goes after the low-hanging fruit. But actually, there's a lot of time and effort that we put into our relationship with our clients that, we see as a long-term picture that's the most important.
Yeah. How tricky is it for somebody to navigate the market without a buying agent in Marbella?
I'd say you'd become extremely frustrated and you'd feel like everyone was looking after themselves rather than looking after you.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. We pick up quite a lot of business from sales that haven't gone through or people's frustrations.
Yeah.
And if someone will refer us through word of mouth and say, do you know these guys? You should just have a chat with them. And because we're a family business, family values, they sit with us, we have a coffee with them or on the phone, their guard automatically drops and they realise that, we're here to look after them.
Yeah.
So I think without a buying agent, you could easily be frustrated and feel undervalued.
Yeah.
And that's not a place you want to feel when you're trying to buy a lovely home and have an amazing holiday home.
Absolutely. What are your top tips for somebody considering buying a home in Marbella?
Number one is people will try and rush you, but take your time. There is no rush. Number two is try before you buy. I think, and I say it to clients a lot, they say, well, I arrive on Monday, I can see you on Monday afternoon. I say, no, I won't see you on Monday afternoon. I say, I'm going to send our driver, he's going to pick you up, he's going to take you to one of my favourite restaurants for lunch, or he's going to take you to these places, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Take your time. When you come back next time and you want to arrive and you land and we want to go viewings, then perfect, we can do that. But I really believe, almost pretend you live there, visualise and go and do the things you would do if you lived there or you had a holiday home there. So we've done things like we know we've got tennis mad clients, and there's a really good tennis club called Prince Romano Tennis Club. So we've arranged for the kids to go to the lessons. Because the kids are going to go to the lessons when they're there, so let's get them going now and see if they enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I think try before you buy.
Yeah.
Whether you stay in a hotel or you rent a villa, I would say stay in a hotel just for ease, but rent a villa if you want. We can arrange that for you, but just take your time. There's no rush, and just enjoy the experience.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Very good advice. Thank you, Jack. And finally, tips for anybody wanting to be a buying agent in Marbella?
It's a great question. I love that question. I would say carve out your niche. There's a lot of property in Marbella. Carve out your niche that you think you can add the most value to. And again, don't rush. Build strong relationships and identify the people that you can add value to their services. So, we work with some great brokers and great agents, and we get on really well with them because we can add to that whole process and build those relationships. And again, take your time because there's no easy wins.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
And I've got one more question, which is how much of what you source for clients is off market?
It used to be a lot less.
Yeah.
I would say now it's getting up to sort of half, 50%.
Yeah.
Which is quite a big
significant.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what we've sourced is stuff that might come to market in, later this year or something like that. But because of our reputation, we'll be offered it a lot earlier.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's increased.
Yeah. It sounds similar to the market here where sellers, particularly for high value properties, will be quite reluctant for all sorts of reasons to put it online.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah, I think that's going to become more of a thing in Marbella.
Yeah.
It's a very it's easy to get hold of marketing collateral for some of the most expensive homes. And I think if I was a buyer buying that home, I'd feel uncomfortable people having so much detail of my home.
Yeah.
It's, retaining some privacy is really important.
Yeah.
So I think if you've got a good reputation and you're respected in the market, you'll get early access to those homes that would come to the market anyway. And there's others. We've been asked by people that know us by reputation, or know us, to be honest, through golf, that they would say, well, look, do you have a buyer for my home? Or you're working with anyone that'd be interested? And we've done deals that way.
Yeah.
So it's definitely increasing.
Yeah. What do you think the future is for real estate in Marbella in terms of pricing? Pricing? Yeah. Is now a good time to buy?
I think now is a great time to buy if you're an investor. I think that pricing is at as low as it's going to be for years to come in terms of villas and buying. I think we're going to see a significant increase in the prime markets, but also the subprime markets. So I think if you're interested in buying, the next 6 months is the lowest it's going to be for a long time. And there will become a point where we get a lot less supply than we have now, and that will drive values even more.
Fantastic. Jack, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. It's been great having you on the podcast. Thank you for your time. That brings us to the end of Finding Perfect Property podcast, Diary of a Buying Agent. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe on whatever channel you use. And if you're interested in buying property in Marbella, then please do reach out to either me or Jack. See you next time.